The Canadian. How you doing, my man?
How you doing, man? What's up? How you doing?
Seems like you're always flexing, man. What's going on?
I've been working out, man. I'm getting to 180, and I like the journey is just ah. This is gonna be lit, man. When I come back,
What's up, Walk? What's up, Big Chase? I see you free smoke at work, but tuning in as always. Absolutely. What's up, y'all? I appreciate the support, appreciate the love, but I definitely saw that you are cutting weight. But what's also interesting is that you also dropped some other news, right? So it wasn't just, hey, I'm cutting weight to 185, but I recently got signed. Tell us the good news. I don't want to be the one who bears your good news. You tell us what the good news is.
I thank you for that. I am a full-time actor. I just got signed by an agent. Big Six
Hey,
Northwest talent representation is lit. I just finished wrapping a film I'm directing, and it's in
what's
post
up, Zay?
production like as we speak. I am editing it, and it's going to
What's
be
up,
out
Charlie?
soon. It's a horror film, and that's all I can say. I can't wait for y'all to see it, man. I can't
Yeah,
wait for y'all to
absolutely.
see it.
Congrats to the Canadian. Yes. It looks like you're
Y'all
in good
gonna see
spirits,
me
brother.
as a monster. You're gonna see me as the villain. I'm gonna be the killer, the real murder
No,
bear.
right, right. And so definitely you seem like you're in high spirits. Things look like they're moving forward. And so what does this mean for the Street Beefs community? So it looks like you're going into full-time acting,
hmm
you're directing movies or you're in movies. And so what does that mean for fighting? Do you put that on the shelf? What exactly does that mean? I mean, you're an actor, so I don't know, like, how does that translate if you get punched in the face? Like, will you be able to go on screen?
True. It means that I gotta wrap up fighting, and um, I didn't want to do that right away because
What's up, Gorilla?
there's still some some unsettled things there. I'm not one to go off. In basketball, when you're shooting around at the gym, it's an unwritten rule that you never leave the gym on a miss. And in my last fight against Real Lion, I got my ass kicked. I was getting knocked around. The turf. I was slipping on that turf like a rookie, and it made me look bad. Props to the Real Lion though, because uh, that power showed everybody that I'm supposed to be smaller, and I can't just
Yeah.
be playing around in light heavyweight. So I know I talked a lot of shit about going to middleweight, and that's what I'm going to do. I want to settle that by just going on a little farewell tour, Hitman from the West Coast. That's going to be a West Coast invasion of Scrapyard. I'm sorry, Fire Chicken, I broke it. There's going to be a West Coast invasion of Scrapyard, and Hitman called me out. I'm going to fight him, and I'm going to be fighting at Strelka if I can make weight by November 20th. It's and whatever other fights I can get before everything's out. I might not get to fight in the invasion because that's in May of next year. I might be on the set, but whatever fights I can get in the I would say November or December, it's gonna be my farewell, man. And then I'm
So
gonna
the
have to step
farewell
back.
tour is that how many fights is that? Is it just one? Just to say
I
you
don't
fought at 185, or does that mean you're going to go around and fighting at different branches? Like I think what you originally had anticipated early on at light heavyweight.
I will, man. I want to say an event for uh November and December, at least three fights, but I can't make any promises because my agent really wants me to just keep a clean face and for
I hear that.
for roles. So I would say November and December gonna be a lot. I'll try to fight as much as I can. I'm gonna try to get to 180 as quick as I can and fight as much as I can in November and December. But hopefully it looks like a Strelka fight and I was like two more fights in Street Beefs, which would be a total of three fights. Hopefully, hopefully. But
Okay.
I'm not going to be completely out of the Street Beast community. Um,
Right.
I'll still be around for training, still be around to give advice and give guidance, still be around to referee or to just be a presence in the events whenever I can make it out. And
Yeah, exactly. Just make sure you don't get punched in the face. I
yeah,
mean,
make
this
sure
is
I don't get
definitely
punched in
one.
the face.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's one way to kind of short change or have a shortcut is to make sure you dodge those punches and you do all the knocking out. And so therefore your face remains intact.
That is true. That is true. But a lot more goes into the industry, like as far as just how you marketed it and
Yeah, yeah.
fighting is going to do against some of the things I want to do. But that's not me. Because I'll just fight and act like. But this is my first agent, so I want to.
Word.
Yeah, I'm not gonna fuck that up.
No, I hear
I'm gonna
that.
be
What's
making
up,
gyms
Bricks?
though. I'm gonna be making gyms. Um, Street Beefs gym is on the way, and that's all I can really say. So
Right.
there'll still be a strong community presence by the Canadian in the
Word.
Street Beefs,
All
and
right,
I'll
well,
be on here.
yeah, absolutely. And so we look forward to the many ways you will show up in the Street Beefs atmosphere, in the environment. I mean, what I always tell fighters as well is that, the only the gift that you offer isn't just fighting, right? And so you offer other gifts. And so it's good to see that you're tapping into those gifts and that you can offer that to the community as well. So looking forward to everything that will manifest in your life and what you're manifesting currently. So this is all good news. So good news for the Canadian is also good news for Street Beefs. Is also good news for Heart and Fight. It's good news for the West Coast and the Scrapyard branch.
Very good for y'all. Think West Coast. Y'all think I left y'all and abandoned you, but my behind the scenes work is way. My behind the scenes resume is way better than my fight resume. I'll tell you
Word.
that. Like
All right.
y'all, I
Awesome.
love all of you. I love y'all. Every fucking branch.
So
Don't do that.
Bushido. Yeah.
Bushido
Word.
said, "Hey, I gotta hit you up."
There we go. Well, that's good, man. I know that we're so I appreciate everyone for coming on the show. Today we're going to spend a little time kind of reflecting, reflecting on the West Coast Invasion, which is one of the largest. I mean, I don't know if it was the largest, but certainly one of the biggest, and one event that had probably the most hype going into it was the West Coast Invasion of the OG Yard by the West Coast branch. And so we're going to take some time to really reflect. What prompted this is a number of things. One is that normally Heart and Fight, whenever we're at an event, we just try to reflect. But that comes from when there is a quote that I learned. I can't remember the person who said it, but essentially is that we don't learn from experience. We learn from reflecting on our experiences. Right. And so there's many times where we experience things, and there's many people who's made the same mistake over and over and over. So they continue to experience it and continue to make those mistakes. But the growth happens is when you reflect, when you create space to really reflect and to create closure. And so that's what we're here today, right? Is to kind of create closure. We opened up this. I mean, last year we started talking about the event. We created a lot of momentum, spent a lot of energy, a lot of effort. So now here's a time for, now that the event has expired, to really close out, to have discussion, to have dialogue, and to see what was memorable, what stuck, and what will probably live the test of time. Right, not only with us, but with the organization itself. Yes, Demon Monsoon said it was the biggest event ever in the OG Yard, and he's an
Most
OG,
definitely.
yes,
Most definitely.
alum and Hall of Famer. So he says it's verified. Right?
Facts. Facts.
Yeah, the event was great stuff. It was fire. Um, And so we definitely want to spend some time reflecting on that. And so I was there. I was one of the lucky participants that was able to be there to capture the moment. So if y'all haven't seen any of the behind the scenes clips, y'all are missing out. And so we have a bunch of the behind the scenes stuff on our Facebook page. So make sure you go to our Facebook page, but we also have the main event, which was almost like a movie because it was like 30 something minutes long, which was the 619 versus Venom Black behind the scenes. So if you haven't checked those out, definitely check those out. And as you go check those out, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like and share our posts so that you can share the good word to everyone else, to your community, to make sure that they're tapping in. You're tapping in, but also they're tapping into the conversation, but also get to see you fight. All right, and so with that, the West Coast definitely showed up. So I see Bricks saying the West Coast
I
showed
can't
up.
see
Yes.
anybody in the chat. Actually, hold on. Let me go see the live one. I'm on my laptop. Well, why do
I
I keep saying,
appreciate
hold
that.
on? Do your thing, guys.
Yeah, so I appreciate that, Big Chase. Yes, it was.
There we go.
Oh, look at that. We getting some love, man. We getting some love. I see you. Free Smoke
Oh,
saying it was
shit. We
A1.
definitely are.
Yep, so I
I
really
think the behind the
appreciate
scenes
that.
is the best part about it. Love the insights in those. Thank you,
No,
Charlie.
absolutely. Yeah, thanks, Charlie. We appreciate that. No, it certainly was because you get to see. I can't remember who said it best, but essentially you get to see a fraction. I think it's Big Chase actually who says you get to see a fraction of the fighter when the fights happen. Right, you get to see either 20-second shout out at the beginning, probably a 5-second shout out at the end, and then them fighting. So you don't really get to see who they are as people, what kind of characters they are. And so you don't learn much about the fighters. And so what the behind the scenes does is it captures that. Not only captures the characters, but it captures the moments leading up to the fight. Because sometimes people have different rituals. People prepare for fights differently. Some people, like Wedo, like to be in a distance, like to be quiet, like to make sure that they're internalizing what's about to happen. You know, some people are just not. Some people love kind of the activity of fighting, kind of the violent nature of it, and some people actually don't like it, but they come to grips with it. They reconcile it. Like Nate Diaz and Nick Diaz are prime examples of that. They're professional fighters who always say they hate fighting. They hate fighting. Right? It makes them stick to the stomach just thinking about fighting, but they have to reconcile it. They have to internalize what they're about to do. And so there's people like Wedo who do that very thing. They have to internalize it. And so you kind of leave them alone. But there's other people like 619 who just continue to poke at the fighters all day long. And so you get to see that. You see that in action. And that's what we were able to capture in behind the scenes. And so what's up, Tank? And so, yes, it is very entertaining, also very insightful when you see a lot of the fighters. Yeah,
Sorry.
exactly. Yeah, man, I wish I could have made it to Streetbeefs West Coast 12. You know,
What would you have been dressed as?
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, who do you think? I mean,
Kenny G.
Kenny G. Just brought the saxophone.
Yeah, just wear a suit, bring a saxophone. You'd have been in Kenny G.
Yeah, exactly. Kenny G. I could have been a number of things. I mean, back in the day when I had short hair, I mean, I went through a number of phases where people said I look like John B. People said I look like Tiger Woods. So I went through a number of different Craig David.
Black Fabio.
And so, yeah, exactly. So I went through a number of things.
You could wear a blouse and just Black Fabio.
And so I could have been anything. Troy Polamalu. So I've also been mistaken for him. Right. And so for all you Pittsburgh Steelers fans, I've been mistaken for him. I've been at restaurants and people come up to me asking for an autograph. I'm like, nah, I'm not Troy. They go, oh, okay, we just stopped. And you know what they said? They was like, okay, you looked a little smaller than you do on TV. I'm like, yeah, I'm not that big. Trust me.
How much do you weigh?
So, how much I weigh?
Yeah.
Probably like 190. I'm just tall. I'm a little thick, but I'm just tall for the most part. I mean, I think Troy is like around 6'6". I want to say like 6 feet, probably 6'1". I'm in the middle of both. And so I think on a good day, I'm 6'1". On a bad day, I'm 6 feet. And so, oftentimes I think people mistake when they see the size. I mean, Weddle said this himself. Like he imagined me to be like a Wama size. And so when he saw me in person, he was shocked by it. He was like, "Whoa, you're a lot bigger than I anticipated." And so he started to size me up a little bit.
KT.
Oh, Prince KT. Yeah,
oh wait,
I can imagine.
World wanted smoke with the wizard. His heart was
Yo,
in the
what
fight.
up, Beast? What up, Beast? Yeah, I think all men do that. We kind of size each other up, and so that's one of the things you definitely see in the behind the scenes is that whenever I went and brought the camera over to people, they were like, "I just can't wait to see the person." Free Smoke said that. Um, um, uh, I think 619 was saying that. Like everyone was like, "I just want to see the person," right? Because I think oftentimes you just want to see who you matched up with, right? You want to see, okay, and also to see what kind of gifts the other person has, the physical abilities that the person might bring. So I think men do that in general, but in this sport, you definitely do it just to see, you know, just to see what if you have any advantages.
I totally took Prince KT to be Wemma's size, just like a little skinny stoner guy. Um, but hey, Anta. Um, but like this dude is like some NBA player looking dude that can actually fight. I'm like, damn, okay. Like, all right, Prince, I see you.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine
I
he's
probably
tall.
would have
He
thought the
looks
same
tall.
thing of you because I did envision you as being like mustaches height with just like a little chub, but you
Yeah,
six
apparently
one,
that's not the case. Apparently that is not the case.
six
And so, yeah, so
one.
let's talk about these fights, right? And so
Okay,
as we can, I mean, Canadian and I can talk about this all day, and so we don't want to bore y'all. I know, and so let's talk about what it was like going into there. So it took me 2 weeks to get there. So it's an entire trip, so entire month trip. So it took me 2 weeks to get there. We started in LA, eventually made it. Traveled up north a little bit, so we got to go to St. Louis, right to the St. Louis. I told the
hey,
Canadian I was there. He gave me a restaurant recommendation. Definitely went there. And so we went to Pittsburgh, a number of different areas, and then made it. And so the day of, it was interesting, right? So for those who the location changed a few days before we had got there,
where was
and
it?
so it was in West Virginia,
Okay,
and so everyone had pretty much booked their hotels around Westminster. Is it Winchester? Not
Winchester.
Westminster.
It's
Winchester.
Winchester. Winchester.
Yes. And so everyone had kind of booked. Yeah. And so everyone booked their trips and booked their stay around Winchester. But when they gave us that they are moving it to West Virginia, it added, I mean, some folks were like 5 minutes out, some folks were like 20 minutes out. It added an additional hour, sometimes an hour and some change to get to the West Virginia location. And so no one had been there before. And so no one can really anticipate what it was going to be, how people were going to prepare. And so what happened was I wanted to make sure that I was there early. I wanted to make sure. I mean, that's just who I am in general. Whenever there's any kind of event, I always want to show up early, kind of get my feet wet, figure out where things are so that I can prep. Right, I have a camera. I want to make sure that I'm also capturing people. So we get there, and so I get there early. I leave super early. I'm actually staying on the border of pretty close to Virginia. I'm on the border of Virginia, and I can't think of the state that's above it. Anyways, I'm on the border. So I was probably 45 minutes out from Winchester. So it added probably out. So I had an hour and 30 or 45-minute drive
You're making
to,
me think of it now.
yeah, to West Virginia. And so we
Hmm.
drive through. I get there, and I'm
Tennessee.
probably like, no, no.
Oh,
Tennessee's
my bad.
south,
Got you.
and southwest. Yo, what's up? I said, let me show some love to folks in the room. What's up, baby Hulk? What's good, champ? I did not get to film the road trip, man. I wish I would have. I had my wife and my child, so it was really difficult. It's really difficult when I didn't know how my son was going to do, right?
Hmm.
Being in that road trip for so long, and also my wife was pregnant. I didn't know how that was going to happen, so I didn't want to film the ugly, right? Just in case things got ugly, I'm sitting there exposing myself, exposing.
Yeah.
But actually, it went really well. So I should have filmed it, but it is what it is. One of those things happen. They happen, and so I should have filmed it. But I took tons of photos. We made sure to stop at a bunch of different landmarks, and so we got photos. We wanted to make sure that we got to capture the environment. We learned. I mean, traveling from state to state, you learn a lot. You learn that here's one thing that I learned, and I'm gonna be brief about this. Is that I think for a very long time I just thought that people arbitrarily put lines in the sand and say, well, this is the new state. And so when we're going from Utah to Colorado, it's like, here's an arbitrary line that separates these two states. I didn't realize that actually the land itself is different. Like it identifies itself. And so when you crossing over, like when you're going to Utah, you see all these rocky mountains. You see everything that's like, it seems like you're on Mars. And then as soon as you cross over to Colorado, you see all these trees. And so the environment itself, the land itself is saying we are a different space. We're in a different environment. And so it told the story. And so there is no mystery to it. If you just look at the land itself, you can tell that the soil is different. The land is different. And so that in itself taught me a very valuable lesson that if you just pay attention to the land, it will tell you a different story. So yes, to go back to the story. So I want to make sure that I get there early. So I get there early.
Okay.
And
how early? Was it like a day, hours?
No. So it was on Saturday. So I get there Saturday early. They told us to show up at 9. I showed up around like 7:50.
Okay.
Showed
Were you
up
like
around
fresh just getting there, or like did you get there a night before?
So I had gotten to Virginia the day before.
Okay.
We were always, so I was in Maryland at some point. I was also in DC. So I was always close. So I was around that area, but I got to our stay in Virginia the day before. And
So you had time to rest.
I did get some time to rest to make sure that I got there. Why every time you're it seems like every time you're on the show, people are just waiting to jump on you.
Yeah, man, they got nothing better to do. I guess he's still nursing that black eye he must have.
And so when we got there, so I got there early. I was probably like the 10th person there. And so when we got there, there was all these, it wasn't a bunch of cars, but everyone was trying to figure out what to do. And so we were like, well, I step out the car and everyone's looking at each other. Demon Monsoon was there. There were a few other people there. Ryu Pixie had gotten there just before I did. I'm trying to think who else was there. KJ was there. So there was a few people there trying to figure out, okay, what do we do? Where is this fighting location? And then Demon Monsoon kind of comes down from the hill and he's telling us, okay, this is where the fighting location is, but the cage isn't here. And so everyone's like, okay, what do we do? Do we wait around? And so it was unclear. But I knew at some point it dawned on me, because we were all parked up this driveway. It dawned on me, oh, there's going to be all these people coming, and I don't want to feel trapped. And so I actually I reversed and got out of the driveway and parked down. This is the reason why I'm telling you the story, because it's going to become important later on. And so I parked down this really long pathway to get to the driveway. So I parked down in this kind of grassy area. It's in the middle of the forest. And so I wanted to make sure that I can, exit, go in and out at a moment's notice to make sure if my wife who's pregnant says, hey, I need some help and there's an emergency, I could bounce without having to ask 50 people to move their cars. So I just wanted to make sure, got there early, but also I wanted to relay the message to all the West Coast fighters who were coming at 9:00, like, hey, here's the current situation. And so I want to say, it's hard for me to remember the times, but I want to say around 8:30, 8:45. I should have checked because I took a picture of it. The cage arrives. Corey, the Wolverine, shows up with the cage. Right? He's blasting music. And I'm like, all right, we finally made it. And so now people, going up the hills, he's giving us instructions where people should be parking, where they shouldn't be parking, giving us instructions on how to put the cage. Right? It ain't a street if you don't get trapped behind like 5 cars.
True that. You gotta have that parking sense, man. You gotta have good parking.
No, absolutely. And so Demon Monsoon said 8:45. So it showed up around 8:45. And so, yes, showed up around 8:45. And I was like, all right, well, we got to put this cage together. And so people kind of banded together. That's the one thing that I really did appreciate, was that people, soon as they were able to get the cage on top of this kind of hill area that it seemed like the Wolverine kind of cleared out. They had a bunch of trees there and rocks before then. He had cleared out because there was also a crane. I think there was like a forklift there. There was stuff there.
Okay.
And so you had knew that
Yeah.
there was a construction site that they had been doing some work the weeks beforehand to clear the site to fight. And so folks banded together, they put the cage up, and then the West Coast fighters start showing up. People start getting warmed up, but also trying to figure out the cage situation, what kind of mulch they were going to put on the ground. And then Faye showed up, Esteban showed up, and all these folks start showing up. And I was like, all right. And so once I knew, we took a group photo. Once I knew then, okay, the event is going to start. It's about to start happening. However, here's a key thing is that the West Coast fighters had been given, thanks to Sunshine, she had given a heads up the night before and said, hey, y'all want to show up at 9 a.m. to make sure that you're ready for your fight. And she kind of gave us a list of what it can look like. She just said, your fights might start at this time and they can be this order. So be prepared, right? Don't show up late. Said, all right. And so that's why the West Coast fighters were showing up on time. Apparently, what we learned from some of the East Coast fighters is whatever time they give you, you add an hour or 2 hours after.
Because it's their backyard. Of course, they're going to show up late.
And so it was really hard. And so that kind of threw off the schedule a little bit. And then some of the fighters actually had to leave. And so, because Demon Monsoon was the first person supposed to fight. He was supposed to be the one who kind of bridge all the branches together. He was going to have the East Coast and West Coast fighters to walk him in. However, when WA, who did he fight? Can't think. Who did he fight? He's a legend. I can't think of his name now.
What? Who? WA?
Yeah. In the chat, help me out, y'all.
WA fought.
I can't think of it right now.
Fuck. Wait, why did I just draw a blank? That's my favorite fight. Hold on.
Yes, A-Train. Thank you.
A-Train.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, A-Train.
A-Train said, hey, I can't actually be here that long, and so is it possible to move up the fight? And so they actually started with WA and A-Train, which was great. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And so we get there, and so they're about to fight, and so it threw off the schedule because some folks had to leave early, some folks weren't there, and so it looked like they had to scramble for matches, trying to figure out, well, who goes first, who goes second, who goes third. But we knew, I think.
No, I'll put my chat up there. Yeah, put my comment back up there. I saw. Yeah, you saw it, Daniel.
I actually didn't see it.
My bad. Keep going.
And so, well, yes, of course, right? And so I'm from the West Coast, and so I think it's only, natural, right, to vibe with the West Coast group. But I was born on the East Coast though, and so I'm always conflicted, right?
Oh,
yeah.
really?
I was born on the East Coast. I was born in Brooklyn, New York. However, I grew up in LA, so that's why for me, I always say I'm an LA native because I really don't remember what it was like in New York. I was a baby.
I got you.
But I do remember what it was like growing up in Inglewood, California. Right? I do remember what it was like walking in those streets. I do remember, right, learning those valuable lessons when you're walking through those kind of neighborhoods, what to wear, what not to wear, what to say, right? When people approach you, what you do, the distance, personal space. You learn all of those things, right?
How was the
in these environments.
Having such a culture shock in a few days and seeing a Streetbeefs event of a different kind of magnitude from the OG branch. How was that atmosphere? Expound on that. How was that when the fights got underway and you feel the atmosphere of an OG event mixed with the West Coast vibe?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because I felt like the West Coast fighters were a little bit out of their element.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, understandably so. They're on the East Coast, and so they were more quiet. If you've ever been to a West Coast event, like everyone is going up. Like the energy is high. People are like, they're ready to fight, and you can sense it, you can feel it. And I'm not saying that East Coast fighters, that you don't get that vibe there. You do, but I think the West Coast fighters are trying to figure out the elements, right? They were fighting what looked like a forest. Right? They were fighting in the forest in a new terrain. And so, but also trying to figure out structure, right? Like how does Face run his differently than the way the Tank and Bushido run theirs, which is different.
Mm-hmm.
And so, they were pairing guys. It seems like Tank, it certainly is Tank and Bushido. They already have a list of who's fighting, so they have a good idea who's fighting. There's very few kind of like, hey, I'm gonna match all together, unless someone doesn't show up. Then it's like, hey, we got to match people who came. Then that happens. But for the most part, they have an idea who's going to be matched up with. It seems like, for facing them, it's like if they're not pre matches, then we're just going to assign. And so people kind of get in the groups, and it's like, hey, if you fought here before, stand over here. If you have not, this is your first time coming, stand over here. And then we start going for weights, right? And then it's like, how much experience? Yeah, how much experience? And then people tell you, I have this much experience. And so, exactly. And so they start to really evaluate and assess, well, what is the right match given the experience level, but also, does anyone have purple belts? Anyone have any kind of belt? So that kind of thing happens on the East Coast, I think, far more often than it does on the West Coast. However, so to get back to the story, so we get there. I think the West Coast fighters were a little out of their element, but you can tell that they were trying to figure it out. I saw that, Free Smoke went to the cage. He was filling out the ground, filling out the cage, filling out the environment. But he was also looking at KJ. It came back to me, which was actually not on. I think he does say it in the behind the scenes, but there was another time he told me, he says, he's not as big as I thought he was. And so I can tell that he was kind of, because KJ was in the cage. I think he was vibing out in the cage too. And so Free Smoke had to see for himself how big is KJ. And so you saw a lot of that happening. But what I thought was,
you probably saw feeling small.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not. But to get to the fights, right? And so when I think about the fights, and let me see if I can bring, the first fight was WA versus A-Train. I think that was a perfect fight to start the event with. Although it would have been great to have Demon Monsoon on, I think it would have been great to have WA and A-Train on, because it was like a master's class. I don't know if you've ever been in a gym been to
a lot.
Yep. Or some kind of dojo. There's always the master. There's always the person, the senior person who kind of teaches the move, teaches you the skill, and then everyone kind of replicates. And so everyone's watching, and then they go do it in their sparring session, or they go do it in their rolling session. And so that's exactly what happened. I felt like WA and A-Train, they went out there and put a master class. They wanted to show everyone, this is what it looks like when you refine your skills. This is what it looks like when you're not just winging punches. All right. Yes. WA versus A-Train. This is what it looks like when really close. I think A-Train is pro in WA. I'm not sure if he ever went pro, but this is what it looks like when you get to that level. And so they were able to demonstrate levels in this game. And so I really appreciate them coming out first. And so that was I think they kind of set the example. But what fight did set the tone? Who do you think, when you looked at all the fights, what do you think what fight set the tone for the entire event?
World versus Bad News, and I would say Beach versus Mook. Beach versus Mook first, because I can tell World versus Bad News came later, but I would say Beach versus Mook set the tone.
Well, I would say, it's a good guess. And it was a great fight, Chase. It certainly was. I see some people say Coyote. Yep.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Hey, that one.
Yeah, Prodigy said Coyote. Free Smoke said Diesel versus Zaytoven.
Yeah. That's honorable mention, too. I'm not going to lie. I underestimated Coyote. I thought he was just... I thought he was.
I definitely want to jump into that fight. But
I got you.
Yeah, I would say this. I think the fight that set the tone was certainly Diesel versus Zaytoven. It set the tone for what this clash was going to be like. These two went to war, right? They put it all out. And if you see the behind the scenes, you see that Diesel is exhausted from the first round.
Yes.
Like he's breathing heavy, and those two gave it their all. All three rounds. Yeah. And so to me, I think that set the tone. Like it got everyone hyped. Right. And I think what it did was it captured the imagination of what West versus East can be. Right. Because I can't remember when that fight, it might have been the second fight, but it's certainly, I think Diesel brought it. Yes, Diesel was gassed. He certainly was gassed. But I mean, Zaytoven, to his credit, I mean, he was getting rocked in there in the first two rounds, but in the third round, he started to turn it up. And he said himself, like, I wanted to do the whole Nate Diaz thing because he started to turn up the heat on Diesel in the end. And I think had it gone 5 rounds, I think this thing would have been an interesting fight. But had it been 3 rounds, I think it certainly benefited Diesel because Diesel, I mean, in any fight, Diesel comes off strong. He's a front runner. He's one of those. And that's the thing about Diesel's fight. Like, you just hope that he has enough to carry him through the fight. But man, he brought the heat early, and Zaytoven was able to weather the storm. I mean, at one point, it looked like he was about to go to sleep because he got rocked with an uppercut. And I felt like his eyes went back. I don't know. Like, things happen so fast. But in that moment, everyone was going crazy. Like, the crowd was going crazy. And you got to imagine, like, I'm filming this on the side of the cage, and people are, like, rocking the cage. People are jumping on you. They're yelling. And I'm just trying to catch.
How'd you feel?
I'm just
like, I mean, at that moment, seeing it. Oh,
I agree with Diesel. I think a 5-rounder. Oh yes, a 5-rounder. You probably would have fought differently. But yes, during that moment, I mean, I couldn't help myself but like yell. Like I was yelling too, but you couldn't hear me because people were yelling so loud. And what was beautiful about that is that you see guys who have fought Diesel supporting him. Mm-hmm. Right? You see Battleborn yelling for him. And if you saw the fights beforehand, right, those two went. I mean, they're about to have a trilogy at some point, and these two have gone to war with each other. They've had, chosen words with each other, and to see them when we're out on the East Coast, them bonding together, you see that Battleborn is supporting him, yelling, giving him instructions. I mean, it was a beautiful moment to even just capture that. But I mean, so it was great on my end. It was great to see that, but it was also like trying to contain even my excitement because the thing is, like, I always want to remember that I'm capturing the moment because I can get lost in the moment too and put down my camera and go crazy and not capture the moment. I want to make sure that I am still focused on what's happening. And so there's like this split focus that happens is that you're focused on what you're seeing, but you're also focused on how you're feeling. And so it's like, and it's me kind of wrestling with that the entire fight and all the fights really.
Was that their competitiveness? Like once the fights got going, I know you said that the West Coast fighters felt like they were out their element, but once the fights got going and like everyone's just into the fights, what was that atmosphere like? Was it like a real East versus West kind of thing, or what was it like? Was the atmosphere kind of dangerous?
Yo, what up, Fetty? Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
No what?
Yeah. And so, here's the thing. I think people were nervous into the Diesel fight. Mm-hmm. I think the Diesel fight, put a battery on everyone's back. I said, we got to represent because the way they represented, it felt like a burden that everyone else had to carry and also they called it a draw. And so I think that even compelled the West Coast fighters even more, gave them more motivation to even show up and show out when there was their time. Because I even heard, I think at some point, Prince KT was like, oh, if they gave that a draw, I'm going to have to knock my dude out. Right. And so there was and so it forced people to reconcile with this idea that we're not going to get decisions here. We got to take care of business.
Will not make a hard decision. They will just give you a draw. And I mean that with all love, man.
Yeah, no.
Esteban, I
Like
love you,
Oprah,
man.
you get a
Y'all will.
draw. You get a draw. You get a draw.
Omar, I love you to death. Y'all will not make a hard decision, man. Y'all, y'all run away from that like niggas run from commitment. Sorry. Oh man.
But Free Smoke is right. He was calling out a lot of the fights. He was calling them, and so Free Smoke was on point for a lot of theirs. And so I definitely would say that gave everyone the battery, right? It fueled everyone up for their fights. I want to say the biggest moment, though, the the biggest moment at that event, I think, that changed it all was when Coyote fought the Wolverine. It
Yeah.
changed the atmosphere. It changed the energy
That felt different
because
watching it.
it felt different. It not because when it felt like we were climbing. So when we got there, it felt like we were climbing an hill, right? We had to prove ourselves. Well, the West Coast branch had to prove themselves. They had to prove themselves to the East Coast branch and the fighters that they are legit. They're credible. And so it felt like this uphill battle the entire time. And what Coyote did was he leveled it. He said, we ain't climbing no more. We are here. Right? We have arrived. The West Coast branch has arrived. The champions have arrived. And so he leveled the playing field. He made it known that, hey, I took out the king, right? I think many could probably consider the Wolverine the king of the East Coast division and just the East
Yeah,
Coast,
because he
right? And
just
so,
demolished you.
right? And so he took him out. And when he did that, man, at that point, it was like we were going downhill from there. It was like we not only leveled it, but it was just like, oh, we're going to take this over. And here's
Coyote
the thing,
pulled
right?
y'all up out of Vans.
Yeah.
Out of Vans, bro.
Right. Yeah. Oh, exactly. Ryu, exactly. That's when everyone knew it was real. Absolutely. When
Yeah.
that happened. Because it wasn't just that, Coyote went out there and won a decision. Like he pity pat and he won by his jab. He went out there and put it to him. He didn't run circles around him. It wasn't like this filling out process. Coyote went out to prove a point. And I didn't know this was going to happen, right? Diesel got set the tone for the day. Free Smoke got the finish set for the day. And Coyote led the pack and gathered the troops for the day. Yep, I agree with that. I certainly agree with that. Yeah, it changed the air and made it known to everyone else in Streetbeefs world that the West Coast is on par with the OGR. I absolutely agree with that. And he did it with Cortez's too, right? So that was a beautiful sight to see, right? He did it with Cortez's. But here's the thing. I had spoken to, so I was one of the folks to help broker this fight. I was one of the folks to help broker this fight. And so when I was talking to Coyote in preparation for this fight, but also to secure this fight, to see if he was willing to do it. And him and I had a candid conversation. And I told him, I said, look, Wolverine has tons of experience. I know you have experience, but he has a lot of experience. And I don't know if you're going to be able to pull this off, but you're the best chance we have. That's what I told him. Mm-hmm. And he told me in response, he says, however it pans out, I'm going out on my shield. I was like, okay, this dude is serious. And then when we had the press conference, I had no idea he was going to bring that kind of energy. Golly. And so he set the tone. I thought it was going to be Wolverine doing that to him. I thought, Wolverine, he's slick. He's a slick talker.
Humble,
so
humble, but
I just thought Wolverine was going to, I thought he was going to be slick. He was going to, talk his trash in the press conference, but he didn't. Coyote went out there and says, who you been fighting? Hillbillies? And you think you're going to bring that to me? And so when Coyote did that, I was like, okay, this is different. This energy is a bit different than the conversation. And when I went to go interview him, absolutely. atmosphere certainly changed. And so when I went to go interview him as he was getting ready, he had so much confidence into this going into that fight. Like he couldn't, you couldn't convince him that it was going to be close. He had that much confidence. And that's why, like in the behind the scenes, he looks at the camera and says, "I told you, Mr. Castillo. I told you." Right? Because
he called you Mr.
told
Castillo?
me. Yes.
Oh, that's hard. Yeah, that was legendary. That's legendary.
Yeah. And so he was confident that he was going to do this to the Wolverine. And I felt bad, right? Because the thing is, Wolverine was getting everything together. You know, Wolverine never had any excuses, so much love to him. He didn't have any excuses, but I saw him working on that cage. I saw him organizing people. And I was thinking to myself, this can't be good. He's doing all this kind of behind the scenes work, and yet he has a monster on his hands who is serious. This can't be good for him. The entire time I was thinking that, I was like, this has to weigh on him. And when I asked him afterward, and I said, hey, you know, when I asked him afterward, like, hey, did that any of that doing all that weigh on you? And, you know, he just told me like, nope. You know, there was other things outside of this that they got in the way of my focus. But I was a man. I went out there. I fought. He handed it to me. Right. You can definitely hear Canadian Twitter fingers type.
All right, fuck it.
So he definitely went out there.
He called me Muslim man Flanders. He called me Muslim man Flanders.
Yikes! Y'all are grilling him.
All right. I've been grilling them. Y'all ain't been posting mine, but whatever. I've been grilling them, but I'm off the board now. That was fun. I can't. I can't do that.
And so I'm not even trying to take away the win from Coyote.
Yeah,
I just thought it would have been a closer fight. Mm-hmm. But it changed everything. Coyote, because he like literally he stamped not only his name in Streetbeefs, he stamped the Westcoast name in Streetbeefs. Like after that, I think everyone said, I think to themselves, "Oh, we're gonna knock them all out." I think he set that kind of precedent where everyone believed, "Oh, we're gonna knock them all out." Right? He did that. Free Smoke did that. Oh, we're gonna knock them all out. And Free Smoke had a big moment too, right? That he was able, because he called it. He said, "I'm gonna knock him out in the first round," and then he goes out there and knocks him out in the first round. And so that was a big moment too, because I don't think
kind of his word.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think anyone really. You know, the thing is, you hear these words, you hear fighters say, "I'm gonna knock him out," but you know, a lot of it doesn't actually come to fruition, and so we weren't sure, right? KJ,
especially with haircuts like his, you don't think they're serious.
Yikes! And so,
how your Abby even got your part?
Dang, yeah, that's right. Yeah, hopefully to see running back, but certainly people say these things, and people don't actually, it doesn't come to fruition, and then when you see it actually come to fruition, that he went out there, and it happened so quickly too, because the fight just kind of started, and Free Smoke was able to land, and he didn't really land any punches either, and so it was.
Yeah, he was going for those kicks. He was investing in those kicks. I like that.
And so KJ was coming on strong. He was landing punches and kicks, and you can hear even the people in the back were saying, like, it's early, weather the storm. You hear that in the background, so you know KJ's coming on strong. But then once Free Smoke was able to get his clinch on him, it was over.
Yeah,
because it only took a few shots. Yeah, that Muay Thai. Once he got that clutch on him, it was over. And then he landed the perfect shot, went down, and it looked like he broke his rib. It looked like it.
That was the spiciest thing about Free Smoke. Because, they can't really handle too much spice.
Yes. He threw that, like, racial bar underneath the overall bar.
Yeah. Damn it.
Yeah, I definitely think they could run him back, but I mean, from the looks of things, it didn't look close at all. But
Mhm.
I agree. I think they should run it back at some point. I think they should. You built like a Chipotle cook.
That's not even. That's not even funny. That's not
Here's
even
the thing.
funny.
I can see it in your eyes. You want to respond. Like you're like, yo.
You go to
Yeah.
Breadco to find your client. Shut up. Hey, Chicana, I can help you box, eh? Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby girl. I know.
And so yeah, so when Free Smoke, like to get back to it, Free Smoke when he did that definitely was like, I think the combination of Free Smoke and El
Mhm.
Coyote put it on everyone's minds that maybe a knockout is possible for everyone. I mean, of course, when you look at the rest of the fights, that wasn't the case, but certainly it gave everyone that motivation again. But if I were to say which fight probably had kind of had everyone's interest, I would say
Come on.
Weddle's, yeah, I think Weddle's fight
Yeah.
had everyone's interest. Weddle versus um, Bad
Bad
News.
news. Hmm.
Yeah, for a number of reasons. I think the reason why was that Weddle can hit hard. Bad News can hit hard. This thing was not going to last. It was going to
True
get
that.
ugly. It was going to be
At
violent.
all. Yes.
And so
I
that
actually had Wedo too because I thought AB was just too small for him. I thought, okay,
yeah, I
he's
think
gonna
everyone
kill
thought
him.
that too. When I saw AB in person, he definitely looked smaller than Weddle.
Mhm.
I think he is smaller than Weddle, and just in frame and everything. He's a smaller dude.
He was like a
Although he's pretty
SoundCloud rapper
tall.
that just decided to box.
Yeah, congrats. Yeah, congrats to Bad News for getting signed. So he's going pro. For those who
Yes.
don't know, he just signed a contract. He is going pro. But I think this. Thanks for bringing that up, Big Chase, because I think I keep saying Chase, but Jason is what it does, right, is having to fight Wedo. I think it verified him as a heavy puncher. Everyone knows Bad News hits hard. Everyone knows he has knockouts, but
Yeah.
not everyone knows his opponents, right? Not everyone, and so you can knock out people who are first timers, right? You can say, "Oh, he was." I even hate to even use this word, but I know that fighters use these words all the time. Oh, he was just a bum. He was a can, right? And so it looks good when you're fighting cans. You're knocking out people, but Wedo was a verified fighter. Up to that point, Wedo had proven that not only can he fight, but he can knock you the hell out. He had proven that already. And so I think what Bad News was able to do, right, when he knocked out Wedo, I mean, he knocked him down. He wasn't out, but definitely he wasn't there. He
Yeah.
wasn't out, but he wasn't there.
Man, I was screaming at my laptop, screaming instructions at my laptop. I was like, bro, this is what it was like a pay-per-view fight to me. That was like a pay-per-view fight. That was worthy of me having to pay for that. That and Ryusen and Street Bender. Like those two fights on top of the big main event, of course, but those were like I should have paid to watch that. Because
No,
Werrell
I
was
agree.
standing in there and giving us some hard shots back. But bad news is bad news, man.
No, Bad News is Bad News, and he has good defense. And so when I was watching it from the side, it was clear that Weddle was hitting him hard, right? It was landing on his arms, it was landing on his body, he was hitting him hard. But you can also see that it wasn't affecting Bad News, not for a second.
Yeah.
He was moving out the way. He was moving with the punches. And
He
so
didn't,
when
he
I
didn't really feel him. He didn't feel. I don't think he felt the Werrell like direct on hit
no, yeah, I
as
agree.
much
I
as
don't think he.
Werrell felt a direct on bad news hit.
Yeah, and yeah, I agree with you. I agree. Nothing landed flush for Wedo,
Mm-hmm.
but the moment Bad News landed something flush, it was over.
Okay.
And I saw that. And the thing is, it was at a moment where I think Wedo was trying to get his breather back because he had come on really strong. And so Weddle was stepping back to kind of get his breather back. And then he started to, I think what the fatal mistake is, he started to look at Bad News's hands. He started to look down at his hands. And you see that in the behind the scenes, but you also see that in the other footage is that, and also in the podcast, Bad News said himself, he reacts to feints. And so I kept showing him feints. And so what happened was, you see Weddle looking at those hands. He kept looking at the hands because Bad News kept faking to the body. So he kept throwing the fake jab to the body, and then he comes up top. Boom. Over. Because
Man,
he was looking at his hands.
and that was great too. That was a great move. I was sitting up there like, come on, where you see it? It's right there. It's right there. But
yeah, he was looking at the hands. He was looking down.
Yeah, if you're not looking at your opponent eye to eye, they're going to pull whatever tricks they can, and that's a good trick to pull.
Yeah, in the Streetbeefs video, they cut it. They cut it as soon as he goes down to the victory. What you don't see, but you see it in the behind the scenes, is that Weddle actually gets up. But you can see that his eyes aren't fully there. You can see that he's trying to figure out what happened. But you can also see that he has a hard time hearing people, and his legs aren't fully there. So he isn't stumbling to his corner, but he's on shaky ground. He's on shaky legs getting to his corner. So they sit down and they're trying to talk to him. And you can tell that he's trying to register what's being said to him. Even Face gave him a chance to say, I'm not going to call it, but it doesn't look good, but you let me know if you want to continue to fight. And Weddle, I think at that point, came to his senses and said, you know what? Like, I'm not fully here right now. Like, why even put myself in much further danger? And so I'm just going to, gracefully bow out and say, you know what? Bad News, you got me this time. Yeah, Weddle was on ice skates. Absolutely. He had, and the thing is, even some of the behind the scenes.
Before Loco wore off, he didn't have he wasn't inebriated and he wasn't angry enough. It wore off and he was human for a second.
Yeah, he was. He was human for a second, and he showed how human he was in that moment. Even I don't know if you can hear it, but even I, for those who don't know what his living room looks like, you got to see it.
Sorry. And so, stabilizer, come on now.
And so in that moment, you saw a human moment by Weddle. But yeah, in that moment, I was also, you even heard a human moment by me, because I was telling folks, I was instructing people, help Weddle walk back. Because after they called it, they brought him to the center, they called Bad News the winner. And I kept telling folks, he is on wobbly legs. Someone help him. Help him to the cage. Help him to the cage. You can't really hear it in the behind the scenes. But certainly, I wanted to make sure that he got the support he needed, because that shot was crazy. Definitely, I got to put that there. But and so, I would say that was a really highly anticipated fight, and it ended like everyone knew it would end, violent.
As promised.
Yes, as promised. Yep, lift up to the billing. And I think there was another fight. You Streetbender. When we talk about Streetbender versus Ryu Senin. And so with that fight, I thought Streetbender had the advantage going into the fight because he had done boxing matches already. And so you limit Ryu with all his kicks. You say you can't use these. You constrain his kind of toolbox. And I thought, Streetbender is definitely going to have the advantage. But it looked like he had developed a really good game plan. He didn't allow Streetbender to get off on him. He crowded his space. He brought the fight forward. He did not take steps back. He made it an ugly fight. Right?
And he said he was going to do that. He said he wasn't going to take a step back.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they took your legs. Absolutely. They took your legs from you. And so it was difficult. I think it was difficult for Streetbender in that fight because he didn't allow, like I said, he didn't allow space for Streetbender to land bombs. Although he did land some bombs.
Yeah.
You can tell.
That's pulling it mildly. But yeah.
Yes. And so you can tell that was the game plan, was to just crowd Streetbender to make sure that he doesn't let off any of those bombs. And that's what happened. Ryu Sun had a good game plan, stuck to it, did not allow him, made an ugly fight, landed some bombs on his own. Streetbender did land some, but not as effective as I thought he would have. And so he just made it a really ugly fight and he made sure that he came out the victor. And so I think that was impressive to see Ryu Sun to create a game plan like that without having to utilize his kicks. Yo, Scrapyard in the house. Hope you all checked out our Halloween fights. First one dropped a couple hours ago. Man, I haven't checked out those fights yet, but I checked out the photos y'all dropped. Man, that looks awesome. So I know the fights are going to be awesome, right? So yeah, their Halloween thing looked awesome. So if you haven't checked out their thing, definitely go on their channel, subscribe to their channel. I mean, it looks like the Halloween event looked awesome. Like, I love some of the paint. I can't remember who had, like, they were dressed up. I know the West Coast branch also did theirs, but I think y'all had fog and stuff. I mean, it just looked crazy. It looked like y'all were fighting in a haunted house, and so that was great to see. It's great to see when branches are, employing. They're very festive. I love to see them very festive, and they're incorporating kind of a festive mood and theme into their fights. Yes, it was Jay got him. There you go. Jay got him. Yes, Jay got him.
He had him. Shout out Jay got him.
Yeah, that was awesome to see. And so I'm trying to go over some of the other fights before we get to the Venom and 619, because that in itself was like a movie.
I want to get into the Mustache versus the Olympian.
Okay, I mean, we can do that before the 925.
Prodigy versus Instinct. Oh yeah, 925 Pride, man. Hard nose wrestling for the win, huh?
So here's the thing.
Beach versus Mook as well.
Okay, so let's go with 925 Pride versus Heart of Stone, just because we put the picture up. So that one, I thought 925 was actually going to go out and strike with him. And so I was surprised when he went for the takedown early. But I think what was impressive was Heart of Stone not only survived, but he was also able to at least put up some offense on the ground. And I think that was surprising for me, but also I think it was good luck. I think because everyone on the West Coast was calling that he had no chance, that this was going to go one round and he was going to kill him early. All right, with his wrestling, he was going to submit him. And then 925 kept saying, I'm going to knock him out. And so I think there was high expectations of how this was going to all play out. And so, in my opinion, I thought 925, although he dominated wrestling, I just expected more just because of what he said he was going to do.
I expected
to see more striking.
Some of that power and just wanted to stick to wrestling. Because I feel like 925 had the intention of going toe to toe with Heart of Stone. I'm not going to lie. I felt like he wanted to, but I feel like when he kind of got that timing, because Heart of Stone has that real patient timing. Like you can tell, like he got small legs. When I saw that man's legs, I knew that man never did leg day a day in his life. Heart of Stone, I love you. I've been a fan of you since you were in damn, I can't remember. I've been a fan of you though, so shut up. But you don't do leg day at all. I thought he was gonna stand up and exchange with him, but when 925 felt that them hands, I felt like he just wanted to keep it wrestling, and wrestle he did. He wrestled his ass off, man. Like,
yeah, he did.
I thought that boy was from Oklahoma. I thought he was from Oklahoma the way he was wrestling.
No, he did. He definitely wrestled his butt off, and he was doing, like, he was slapping Heart of Stone. He was like palm striking. I don't know if you can see it in the video, but he's like slap. He's doing
Yeah,
the
Sacktown
209 slap.
slaps.
Yeah. He was slapping him. And so he was able to do that in his wrestling, but I thought he was going to be able to do that on his feet. Well, not do that, but I expected him to do that on his feet because he said he was going to do it. And so, if someone says they're going to do that, I expect it. And so when he didn't do it and he went straight for wrestling, I knew, okay, maybe he didn't want to take any chances. And so, yes, as it said here, Heart of Stone does have hands. And so maybe he just didn't want to test those hands. Maybe he just wasn't in the right mind space. And again, granted, some of these East Coast fighters showed up late. And so Heart of Stone was one of those people. Right, 925 was getting ready early. A lot of folks are getting ready early, expecting that the
I
fights will
think
be early.
they might have took y'all for granted. They might have like underestimated y'all. They're like, man, this our backyard. We gonna come when we want. We don't like, come on, man. These are some West Coast guys. The jet lag's gonna kill them anyway. But that's what I feel, because that's what I feel like, that they underestimated you guys a lot.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. But I think they were also, man, you are going in on these comments. And so for those, all right, for those of you tuning in if you're on the Facebook, I think because you're tuning in on the YouTube. So go on the YouTube channel, because the Canadian is going in on a bunch of folks. Like he's going back and forth with KT.
Y'all can hear it.
This is great. And so he's going in with Free Smoke. So they're having their thing with 619. And so if you're on the YouTube channel, go on the Heart in the Fight YouTube channel, because not only is the Canadian talking with me here, but he is going in on the comment section. And so I would bring that up. I know that it will take us left field, and I just want to make sure that I do my due diligence and talk about the fights.
Let's just keep the comment section in there. We're going to stay on topic.
Yes.
And so normally Tunde is in the comment section interacting with he's everybody. Doing it. But it's me and Daniel today. So I'm giving out free smoke, and I don't just mean some bunk ass weed.
All right.
I'm kidding. Oh, man. Isaac doesn't smoke mid. All right.
Yeah, and so to get back, right? To get back. Yeah, exactly. And so I just expected more, but Heart of Stone was out there. He fought. And so, like I said, some of the East Coast fighters did show up late. He was one of them. We weren't sure if 925 was going to fight that day, because Heart of Stone had, he had shown up really late. And so by the time he came, I was happy that they actually got down. And so that was a great fight. It was a great fight by both men, and it was great to see, even at the end, that they had a great conversation. And a lot of people are just not going to like 925, because even after that win, he's been going at it with Menace Mike, and also I think he's going at it with someone else. But he's been going back and forth certainly with Menace Mike. But 925 is legit, man. He's legit. I think I think he just has to trust his hands. He has to trust his stand up, because in that moments I can tell that he could have stood up with Heart of Stone, but he preferred not to. So he kept shooting on him. And so
I think Demon Monsoon wants to join in.
All right. So hello? We could bring him on. Let's
he's in the comment section. I'll leave it to the Wizard Kelly. I don't make those decisions.
All right, I will send you the invite, Demon Monsoon, now. All right, so in a second. So what is the other fight that you want to talk about? Yeah, some other fights.
I want to dissect. Firstly, Mustache versus Olympian. This was an odd matchup to me. Mustache's BJJ definitely lives up to the hype. I was wondering, was this preset, or was this like a last minute thing?
No, that was preset. And it was preset. Yes. And so I think it was surprising to a number of people.
I thought he was going to fight I thought Mustache was going to fight somebody else.
No, this was preset. So here's the thing. Because here's the thing. That Mustache always wanted to fight the Olympian. I think a lot of us were kind of concerned and surprised by this call out. But I think the Olympian inspired Mustache to fight. I don't know the full story, but I know that the Olympian was some kind of inspiration to him. I don't know if it was to fighting, but he inspired him.
No, yeah, the Olympian inspired Mustache to get into Streetbeefs.
Yeah, okay.
I remember him telling me that, and the Olympian's a fucking hell of a fighter, man. Like when I first saw Olympian fight on Streetbeefs, I thought, okay, here's some hillbilly who got enough monster energy to fight. But no, dude got skills, and from there, man, I've been loving.
Hey, Demon Monsoon, what's up, my man?
What's up, Demon?
Yo, what's up? Yeah, I gotta tell y'all, I gotta weigh in on a lot of what you all talking about, man. Oh boy.
So what do you think about the Olympian then? What do you think about the Olympian versus Mustache?
It was freaking awesome to watch both of them fight because I've seen both of them fight, and Olympian comes into my store where I work all the time. So I had to say I knew Olympian was gonna hit him hard as always in the way he trains. I've sparred with him. So yeah. I would have to I kind of picked all the fights. There was only two I did not forecast correctly. And one of them, I very much was just like, yes. The other one kind of shocked me. So I can't
all right, before we jump into those fights, how do you think it played out? The Olympian and Mustache.
I think it played out exactly as I thought it was going to play out. I knew Olympian was going to come out there, guns blazing, and boom, take care of business. Because you guys brought it up. All of this, let me put it this way. When Wolverine lost, everything changed. The landscape changed. So Olympian kind of redeemed the OG yard in that way. It kind of said, okay, you're in our house. No.
That's a good point. That's actually a really good point.
Yeah.
I hadn't really thought about it that way, but but the way you framed it makes a whole lot of sense. Because you're right. Because
let me take it back a little bit. I know this because I listen to all y'all. I'm going to say right now, some of the OG yard fighters did study a lot of the guys. They studied who they were going to fight, number one. So, just Wook, good to see you, bro. So Canadian, I'm going to say right now, I got to disagree with you with what you said before. And that's where I was just like, I got to weigh in. I'm like, no. Demon's got to speak up. Because when you said, they're just coming to our yard, and some of those guys took it very seriously. Corey, I'm going to talk about the Wolverine real quick because I did have a chance with that. He spent that whole week ripping all that stuff up. I was with him for 2 days. And then I obviously had to get ready for my fights and then all the other stuff for the West Coast, which was fun. But I would have to say right now, when Wolverine lost, you guys, it was kind of like, I think I said to you, Daniel, it was the WCW, ECW invasion of WWE. The OG Yards, WWE, you guys were the alliance. You took out the top dog. Olympian had to come back and say, no, that was going to happen. Arthur kind of finished that part off too. But I got to give props to Mustache. He stood his ground like KT said. I mean, all you got, the West Coast crew sent a message to the OG yard. It said, enough's enough. Like, everybody was comparing everybody. There's a lot of stuff you guys may not know. Before you guys invaded, we had Scrapyard. Shout out to Scrapyard. Everyone was like, well, bigger OG yards, better than Scrapyard. The West Coast legitimately had a lot of top fighters. It was the best. I'm gonna say right now, it was the best of the best versus the best of the East Coast, hands down. That card was so jacked up. It was awesome. They elevated the OG yard. Here's how I know this. When all the West Coast fights were done, it even elevated the fighters that were coming on that were brand new. That you guys elevated, the West Coast elevated the OG yard. And we were talking about this with the New Jersey pub event. The level of fighter now, because of the West Coast Invasion, is elevating the OG yard. You guys bumped up. You guys kind of, how do I put this? I know I'm going to get nailed for this. You guys basically, how do I put this? Gibbs slapped the OG yard and said, enough's enough. If you want to be the top dogs in the world of Streetbeefs, we're your equal. And that's how it was brought to it. But Olympian did reestablish control of the OG's, I hate to say dominance, but it wasn't dominance.
Yes, and so to Scrapyard's point to Fire Chicken, I think this is Fire Chicken. I just want to make sure. And so to Fire Chicken's point here, I mean, Scrapyard definitely set the momentum forward, right? They were the first to do it. They were kind of the Mavericks, right? They set the pathway. And so as a result, right, they couldn't necessarily bring everyone out. Where on the West Coast, we planned it out, I think, a little further out. And it was as soon as we knew that we had 619 versus Venom Black solidified, and then we had Weddle versus Bad News, we knew, okay, maybe we can make this a much bigger thing than just having these fighters go out. And so we had, 2 months to prepare for this? And so it gave the West Coast some time to raise the money that's needed to get there. And so as a result, the West Coast had a much bigger team of fighters willing to compete.
Well, here's the thing. You look at Wero and Bad News. Here's a perfect example of this. I'm around Bad News.
My bad. Go ahead.
I was around Bad News. I trained with Bad News, spar with Bad News. I was with Wero on Thursday leading into his fight. And, he and I talked. I love being around him. Dude, all the West Coast guys are family to me. I have the flight they all signed. I was so honored. But, and I looked at him. He said, they looked at his last fight. And I said, well, he didn't really do. And, we were all talking. Everyone didn't take anyone for granted. And there's a perfect example of that where, these two, Bad News had that game plan. I knew what Arthur was going to do. Wero, he waited. Ding, boom. Van Wyck said today for y'all because we were up. And I agree with you. I agree with KT on that. I will say right now, you guys, I'm going to give you a little behind the scenes of Streetbeefs OG. We say we're starting at 9. I can tell you right now, I've never seen it go. We've never started on time. There's always something. It's always 9:45, or 10 o'clock is what we always say. But the West Coast fighters, they not only earned the OG's respect, Mama Demon knew everybody's name on the first day they were out there. Like, she was watching on the main thing looking for it. But Wero versus Bad News, if I had to pick, that was a fight that, I honestly thought Bad News was going to be in trouble. And Wero, the confidence in Wero, I loved. I was just like, dude, I wanted to be around him more than anybody. All those guys, it was their confidence. When they showed up, it was like, yeah, this is your yard. We're claiming it. So.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was, we knew it was going to be a war. We knew it was going to be a violent war. And it met our expectations, right? It delivered what it said it was going to deliver. Weddle said he had 45 seconds to do it. And so when when those 45 seconds expired, we knew, okay, this might be bad news for him.
Yeah.
So,
We got to talk about the Venom one.
okay, well, before we get to the Venom one, let me see if we have some other ones, because I want to make sure we spread the love around, because the Venom one was huge. It was a huge ordeal. What about Beach versus Mook? What did you think about that fight? Did you see that one?
That one I did see. I saw all the West Coast fights because I made a promise to a lot of them. I said, dude, if I'm having one of my episodes, people are going to fill me in. And then I rewatched what you guys know that. Beach, I'm going to say right now, because we're about to premiere a video of him and I in less than an hour on my channel. Beach is so skilled, it's scary. He even told me, he goes, it was going to be a ground and pound. It was going to be a fight like no other. I think just if Mook would have got him in an armbar, that's his weakness. That's Beach's weakness. I can tell you that now. He's been working on it. He's working on his wrestling. Him and I always talk about that. That was one of those fights that I will say right now, going into it, I had Beach winning. On paper, Beach was winning. But I didn't take anything away from Mook. I didn't take anything from him because I knew how skilled he was too.
I mean, I told Beach this, right? So we had, for those who didn't see the behind the scenes, I had an interview with Beach after the fight. Mm-hmm. But I told Beach, I said, look, I thought Mook was going to run through him, to be honest. I thought Mook is an incredible fighter. He's probably the most well-rounded fighter we have on the West Coast branch, probably the most athletically talented fighter we had on the West Coast. And so we just thought, a lot of the West Coast fighters thought that Mook was going to run right through Beach. And Beach just really impressed. I think impressed us all, right? I think he impressed us not only how durable he is, but how skillful he is. Because it isn't just like he's there taking punishment. He's delivering punishment, but he's also really sneaky. And so it was great to see that live. Great to see that how skillful he was, but also that he was able to overcome even some of the really tough positions that he was in. I mean, Mook had him in several bad positions.
I'm going to say right now, for anybody, and I will repeat it till the day I die. One of Beach's best fights is him. He was boxing a dude called Lightning. That's his best boxing match that I've ever seen. Up until the mixer that just happened, which I kind of want to see a 3-rounder with something else. Can't do it. Oh, what did he just say? Someone said, I hate to say to the Canadian, there is going to be an invasion. March 19th, the Demon is anybody who wants to join me, Wicked, Jacob, Beach. Beach is coming along with a couple, maybe one or two other people. We are invading West Coast on March 19th. But I've seen Beach get into some dangerous situations and he pulls them out. He knows that cage. He knows that yard good. Mook, same thing. It's like it was a flip of the coin. Whoever showed up that day, that's who was going to do it.
Yeah, and again, I don't want to present any excuses here. However, the East Coast had an advantage because Beach was also one of those fighters who showed up late. Right? I remember Mook warming up early, really early in the morning. He was warming up, and I said, and I remember asking him, "Are you going to fight soon?" He goes, "Yeah, I believe so." And then hours later, Beach shows up. and so when Mook finally fights him, he says, "I don't have any legs." Right? And so I'm not trying to present excuses here, but I also know that having fighters sit that long waiting for a fight can wear on you. And so I think some of the East Coast fighters took that to their advantage.
And I will say this too, and again, I kind of say I was the Kurt. I'm kind of the Kurt Angle of the Invasion. I will say this right now. I'm a stickler on times. If my this is my rule on this one. If you showed up, if you were told to show up at 9:00, you show up at 9:00. I completely agree that they did what they did. I completely agree that the East Coast was like, you know what, they're coming. They want to wait for them. My thing was, let's go fight. Because the idea was we get all the fights done before 12 for you guys, and then everything. That's what Sunshine was telling me, because they were – because Sunshine, I asked Sunshine, am I going first? What's our game plan? Because I wanted to do the whole West Coast, East Coast United, in which turn it was the entire West Coast kind of came in with me, which was awesome. But they did take advantage of that. And I'm going to say this. On behalf of the OG Yard, I apologize for that, because to me, if we say 9:00, 9:30, you show up. That's no more waiting around. There were some fighters that took way advantage of that. And that's, unfortunately, that's the attitude sometimes of the East Coast a little bit. We'll just show up whenever we want. We'll show. Oh, I'm going to fight you here.
Yeah, Ryu, you were on time. I saw you early. I saw you. Right, there's a number of y'all early.
Yeah.
But
Yo, Ryu, you're the man. I'm saying that right now. But you can pick out which ones, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, that waited, because they knew the West Coast guys showed up one day, two days, except for Wook Lobster, who showed up. I'm sorry, that was the best phone call I ever got. Can you drive all the way down to Dulles and pick him up? There's some good
for those who don't know. Well, for those who don't know, Demon Monsoon is an honorary member of the West Coast branch. Right, he treated all the West Coast fighters really well. He picked them up. He showed them around town.
They were all signing this.
Yeah, so I think a lot of folks really appreciate it for what you did, the service, the patience you demonstrated over time. And so we just really appreciate what you did for them and just for the group.
Well, and I appreciate it. And I got to say something. There was a lot of people don't know about this one. There was a fight scheduled it was Savage versus one of the other guys. Me and Savage have had some history. Literally, this is part of the history. And I said to the West Coast guys, I'm doing this for you. I don't want this in my house. And I was willing to let a former roommate who did hurt me, and we had a big beef fight, and we settled it, but I was like, and I said, why don't you come? I'll let you stay. And then me and Wicked One would take you up to the event. I will say this about the entire West Coast crew. They were the nicest. They were the greatest. I introduced people to Waffle House, which was awesome. All those guys were family to me. A lot of you guys don't know. You guys got to see some of it. After my fight with Aku, I had a massive episode because it was so emotionally charged. My brain went, and a lot of the West Coast guys were looking out for me the whole, like, even on Thursday we did sparring, they were looking out for me. I mean, Wook, I can't go by the battlefield because I take him and I see the little crayfish and I'm thinking of him. The West Coast guys were the greatest. I can't wait to go out in March. As some of y'all know, I'm turning pro myself in April, and I'm actually going to be moving out to Parkersburg in a couple of weeks to really take my training, and I'll be doing a couple more Streetbeefs. But the West Coast trip is the beginning of like the farewell thing for me, because I'm going to do the West Coast fights, and then April 2nd, World Autism Day at Streetbeefs. But the West Coast guys were the nicest. I made the joke. I was eating Waffle House with everybody, and I was eating ribs with Shinigami. I thought I was king for a day. I was like,
Right.
I'm looking around, I'm just like, and I mysteriously called out of work for this. And I'm like, I'm eating ribs with Shinigami, Battleborg. I call him Battleborg. I'm sorry, it was Big Bad Beetleborgs, and he knew the joke. But just with all those guys, just being there, and then we went to the after party, me and my buddy Wicked One, and all those guys. Hey, what are you guys drinking? I'm like, well, I really can't drink. TC versus Monsoon, you're my Olympian. Who is TC?
I think it's the Canadian.
Oh, they can't. Well, oh yeah. I'll never forget. He's been wanting to fight me for that belt that I won from the mixer. Yeah. But if you're going to be done in December, sorry, man. I'm coming out St. Patrick's Day because my birthday is later.
But I think for the most part, I think people can attest that you were treating a lot of the West Coast fighters really well, and they reciprocated that love, right? And so it was good to see that happening. But, I think, as you pointed out earlier, I think some of the East Coast fighters did take advantage of the home court advantage by showing up late, which stalled out a lot of I think, fighters who were warming up early on. I mean, I think a lot of fighters didn't know what to expect. And so, but we can shout out those who did not show up, which I think was unfortunate. And I've spoken to one of them so far. So, well, actually, both of them. I spoke to both of them. And so my man Bricks was scheduled to fight Black Goku, and Barefoot Farmer was scheduled to fight OG Rampage. And both of the East Coast fighters did not show up. And so that was really disappointing.
Yeah, I'm sorry, and it's funny. OG Rampage just challenged me to a fight. I'm going to say right now, those two, I'll be nice. I felt bad for that. When people were calling out fights, that's not cool. You don't do that. You show up.
Yeah, especially when these guys are flying from the West Coast. It's not like they're not driving 4 or 5 hours. They are flying across the United States to fight you, and you don't even show up in your own branch. And so I think that was really disappointing. And I spoke to both of them. I definitely talked to Rampage, and I told him, I said, look, I felt like it was really it was disappointing. And I just think that you have to rectify that somehow. And, OG Rampage has come up. He was on Facebook jail for a while. So when he was able to actually type anything or post anything in the group, he did apologize. But again, yes, the apology is there, but just know that people spent money to get there. They spent, right? And so it doesn't erase the pain, right? It doesn't erase the memory. It doesn't erase that sour taste that we all had waiting for y'all to show up, and y'all just didn't. And so that was just really disappointing.
That's the one thing I don't like when, you have somebody, if you're pre-match and your guy doesn't show up, that's BS on that part. I mean, a lot of the fighters out there may not understand this, but there is somebody out there. She works Streetbeefs 24/7. Trust me, I know, because I blow up her phone sometimes. Sunshine is the queen. You have Scarface, you have Omar, you have Esteban, you have Corey, and then you have Sunshine. I think Sunshine is like just right at the top. Like, who does everybody go to? You go to Sunshine. And I know when she was putting all this stuff together, she's messaging me. She messaged me. You're the first person I messaged. Can you do this? I'm like, I got you. Because she knows there's certain people she can count on to do that. And when she does those pre-matchups and you don't show, it's like, no, you're disrespecting not just yourself, you're disrespecting your organization and the lady who's helping do all this. And plus,
absolutely.
And you guys, I saw how much we're planning the trip to Vegas. I'm looking at prices for tickets. They're nuts. I'm like, I feel how you guys are going, what you guys went through. And same with the scrapyard folks. I know what they went through when it came to money. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, no, it was not cheap. And so, because it's not only the flight ticket, but it's also, some of the guys rented cars. They had to pitch in on housing and food. And so, and then Barefoot Farmer showed up with his family. And so, I mean, that's pretty pricey. He didn't just pay for one, he paid for his children, I think, and he brought his wife. And so it was just really disappointing to see that. It definitely left a sour taste on me. So I'm not even fighting, but I'm covering it, right? And so I just felt really disappointed for the fighters.
Well, how do you think I feel? I hate to say this, I'm Mr. Streetbeefs. I like to say that I'm Mr. Streetbeefs. Whenever somebody needs something, they always call on me. Like, hey Jeff, can you help us? I even open up my house. If somebody needs a place to crash, I got a couch. If you don't mind the snoring, don't mind the snoring. Okay, there's a couch downstairs. The one thing I always said to everybody, we never asked for gas money or anything. The philosophy behind me, Wicked, and a couple of the OG guys is, if you're coming here to the OG yard, we got you. Your family, we're going to take care of you. And if I could have made anybody's life even more easier, I would have. If I would have known two people would have not shown up for a fight, I would have found a way to help find two people. Be like, yo, here's two guys for you. Come fight them. That's what we do. Or a lot of the guys.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I mean, yes, that fight didn't happen. I mean, I think we were all captivated by the press conference in hopes that we'll see, Black Goku out there, but also see OG Rampage. I mean, they're familiar faces, they're big names, and so we wanted to see them up against some of our guys. But, they didn't happen. But what it did, it offered opportunities for Bricks to still get his fight in. And so he got to fight a guy who stepped in, a last-minute replacement, and Bricks got to show it off why they call him Bricks. That man has hands of bricks.
Yes.
Yo.
Dude has that tongue.
Because here's this thing, right? Is that some guys, when you hear them punch, like you hear taps. You hear taps. Mm-hmm. And there's some guys, when you hear them punch, you hear thuds. Bricks had one of those where it's like, it's thudding. Every time he lands, you hear it. And the guy went down one time, so props to him. He went down the first round, but he was able to withstand some of that punishment. But man, Bricks was just laying it on him. That
was just something to, and especially with the OG yard, you can hear the wax when they connect, and it's like fireworks. There's a couple fighters in the OG, and I heard in the West Coast, I could hear it. And it's like Bricks, I'm like, who did I think it was Viking. I turned to Viking or I turned to Carissa. I'm like, did you just hear that? And she goes, yeah, it was one of the ladies, Carissa. She goes, yes. I said, no, I know why they call them Bricks. It was like, boom. I'm like, our nurse was busy that day. Besides fighting, but ugh.
No, absolutely. You when he lands, you hear it.
That's the scary part about it.
Yeah, I can only imagine what it felt like, right? And so, props to Bricks, even though he didn't get the two, because there was another fight that he was supposed to fight, and that person bailed out too. So, props to him. He stayed focused. He still got a fight at the OG yard. And he was still able to demonstrate why they called him Bricks. And so, if I were to say there was a person who probably had the biggest come up in this fight or in this event, was probably Bricks, because I think everyone saw his name. He's kind of underassuming. Like, we had him on the press conference, he wasn't really talking much. He kind of let Black Goku do his thing. But then when he showed up, I think at the end of the event, everyone knew who Bricks was. Everyone knew who Bricks was.
And that's the thing. That's where me and a few of the, and I'm going to say this is for everyone behind the scenes. You guys get behind the scenes to know what's going on. A lot of us do talk, and I'm not just talking about folks who are fighters. I'm talking about people who help behind the scenes. And we talk about the fighters. And Bricks was one that no one, like, it was like, who? Like, who? And then after his fight, we were like, put him on the top of the list. Like, there was the West Coast guys, you're at the top of there's that huge list of the who's who, because they've all either we've seen them all fight or they've made a name for themselves. Bricks flew under the radar, and he was your diamond in the rough that no one, that you all knew, but he said to the OG yard, come to the West Coast, I'm going to give you all a lesson. And that's what I loved with Bricks. So.
No, I agree. And I think there was some others like Walk Lobster. Here's the thing. I remember I was debating Venom Black, right? He said 619 has not fought anyone tough. And so that's how he knew he was going to walk through 619. And so we'll get to kind of the final verdict on our thoughts on the 619 Venom Black fight. But he used his opponents as an argument to say that he isn't a tough fighter because of his opponents. And I argued to him, Walk Lobster is a gangster. And I kept saying that, Walk Lobster and a gangster. So for those who, if you see the behind the scenes, and there's some footage that I have behind the scenes of Walk Lobster that I still haven't released, him and Gorilla were going at it the entire event.
Oh, yes.
Walk Lobster, when I say Walk Lobster is a gangster, he's a gangster. He does not care of the size disparity. Every time Gorilla was getting on 619 saying that, Venom Black was going to hurt him, was going to put him to sleep. And it was funny. It was like his card that he kept pulling out. He says, well, where were you for the sparring session? All right. How come you didn't show up? And so he kept calling out Gorilla the entire time. And at one point, it looked like it got serious. Like Gorilla got upset. And he was just, all right. And then even Walk Lobster said, well, because I think Gorilla was arguing that there are no fights for him on the West Coast. And he said, well, there's Nasty Native, fight Nasty Native. And so they were going back and forth. It was crazy. So, but I think in the end, I think everyone realized Walk Lobster is no joke. Right? He's very friendly, unassuming, but you don't play with him.
I need to share a story about him because he was the first of many I would get to I would say endure, but get just to have fun with. And when I first met him, Sunshine, I asked Sunshine, like, who is he? I was literally at the gym training, getting ready for my fight. And okay, I got to clean the house. Picked everybody up, cleaned it, and had to change all my plans. I was like, okay, I gotcha. When I first met him, I was like, who are you? Like, and Sunshine's like giving me the profile, like, this is what to expect. And vice versa. She did the same thing for Wook. And after spending one day with him, we are on the battlefield. We're at the Winchester battlefield that I'm always at. He stops. We get by the cannons, and he's like, come here. I need to see who you're fighting. We pull out my phone. I show him who I was fighting. He goes, okay. Now, this guy has only known me for one day, took me under his wing, and was working with me on body work, movement, head movement, everything that I did in that fight and even in my last amateur fight. And when we went to the sparring session on Thursday, Wade was hitting me hard. The West Coast guys were working me good, and I loved it. I got to do all these things with these guys. Wook, everything we were working on the whole time. And I was so grateful to him and to Battleborg and to all those guys. But Wook, I know Gorilla, I love him to death, but sometimes he gets on my nerves. I can say that. And the fact that those two went at it, I will say right now, Wook told me how he was going to win his fight. He told me what he was going to do. I looked at him. I said, "Who are you fighting?" I said, "Okay, you're going to win." And he goes, "You know, I'm going to win." I said, "Dude, you're going to win." I didn't even question it. Sorry, Canadian. Jeez. There is. I'm bad with names. Come on. But the moment I met him to his fight and everything, he was just he was the comic relief, I would say. He was just fun to be around. And he backed it up. And I kind of told a couple people, I was like, this ain't going to be pretty. And they're like, why? I said, it ain't going to be pretty. No, it's not. I said, it's. And people were rooting against him. And I'm like, this guy's going to. And he told me what his MMA record was, amateur-wise, all this. So, Lobster is my boy. He already told me when we go out there, we're all hooking up. I'm like,
Walk Lobster was legit. And as you said, he's also a really nice guy. Like after he beat UTI, he showed UTI how to defend the choke he beat him with. Like to me, like the ultimate competitor, but also the ultimate like supporter and advocate. And so I think Walk is awesome, man. And so I told him, yeah, go ahead.
He showed the OG yard guys, this is how you do stuff. This is how you this is how you act, how you perform. I didn't say perform, but how you fight. And then this is what you do afterwards. You help your opponent. He set an example. And like I said, the level with the West Coast compared to East Coast. West Coast, if you notice, a couple people that were OG stayed with the West Coast guys because the West Coast was so respectful. And we in turn were like, dude, we want to be with you guys. Lobster did that, and I'm like, that's the level that the West Coast has over the East Coast is the respect and the brotherhood. I even said that to all of them. I said, you guys have the one thing the OGR doesn't have, and it's energy. You have the team. There's no drama. On the East, with the East Coast, there's some drama. On the West Coast, I've seen no drama. That's the unification of that guy. Of that.
Yeah, the West Coast group is they're pretty tight knit. I mean, there is some drama, but I think because they're so tight knit that they work themselves out. Like people are willing to talk it out, and there's also people willing to step in and intervene. And so that happens all the time on the West Coast. And so they're a tight knit group. So I mean, I don't know what it's like on the East Coast. But I know from just watching, that's what I've seen. And I would also say this, right, is that very similar to what Walk Lobster did to UTI, I also saw Mammoth do to Black Spartan. So they had a huge fight. I mean, two big boys in. I mean, they throw hammers, right? And so they go in there and they have a battle. And in the end, I mean, Mammoth gets the win. They walk away. And then you see Mammoth walk up to him and have a one-on-one conversation like, hey, this is what I did to you. This is how you can defend it. And so it was like great to see them have that conversation because not only was the technical conversation, like Mammoth also talked to, like, asked came from, where is he from? And so it was awesome to see them building that bond after a really tough fight.
Mm-hmm. And that's also with I gotta say, Strain Viking and Shinigami. I know they're gonna rematch again soon. There was a lot of camaraderie between both of them, and that there are certain fighters. Like I said, it came down to if the West Coast showed respect. The West Coast always showed a ton of respect. The East Coast was like, it's our yard. The West Coast was like, we're showing you respect. Either you're going to show us respect or we're going to beat the crap out of you. I mean, that's the bottom line. But some of those guys are very strong. Mammoth is he's a huge blessing. Trust me, those guys, I would not mind seeing Lobster versus Gorilla just for my own personal amusement. I mean,
no, I think Walk Lobster, if Gorilla makes it to the West Coast, I think Walk Lobster would be willing to accept that fight. I don't know if he would, But I just have a feeling he would do that because just of who he is. That if ever makes it to the West Coast, I think Walk Lobster has a fight for you. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Hey, Gorilla, March 19th. I mean, if you want to be booked on Demon Travel Agency, here you go. We'll get you. I mean, I'm not paying for anything, so y'all got to find your own ways. I'm going to have everything booked. So,
yeah. And so just for the sake of time, I'm just going to quickly bring up some fights. I just didn't really agree with some of the decisions, like the Shinigami decision versus Striking Viking. Yeah, the 10-second count, like especially if you're in a dominant position, I just didn't really agree with that. Maybe that's a rule on the East Coast, but certainly it's not a rule on the West Coast. And I just think that there needs to be some
it's a rule
clarification.
on the East Coast. That's a rule on the East Coast, unfortunately.
And it sucks because he was in the most dominant position. And so when you're telling a fighter advance to a more dominant position, it's like, you can't. He is at the most dominant position you can be in, right? And so it's like, what do you do next? Move away from it? And so it was just tough, right? It was tough to see that happen because I said, once they got up, because I thought Shinigami had a really good game plan, right? Smother the striking, put him down, and get him on his ground game. And that's what we said. We said that's where Shinigami was going to thrive. And here's the moment. He's in that moment. They take it away from him. And I knew, Striking Viking now has an opportunity to redo this again. And he's going to throw everything in the kitchen sink. And that's what he did.
Oh, yeah. And like I said, that is a rule here on the East Coast because of the commissions and all the issues that they have with sanctioning bodies. That's how they have to do certain things. It's what they do up here. That's why I don't do MMA.
See, I had a feeling Walk Live said I'm down for the gorilla. I had a feeling. Yeah, Mammoth versus it was very iffy if it wasn't that violent as I. No, I agree, Beast. It wasn't as violent. I think we all had imagined, right? But I think Mammoth came up with a really good game plan. He said, "I'm going to just chop his legs," and that's what he did. He chopped his legs. He used a lot of the kicking to keep because Black Spartan is really long. Like if you look at his limbs, he's really long fighter. He's tall as well. And so I think Mammoth was, I'm going to chop at his limbs so that I can bring it close. And then, but also Mammoth's just a big dude too. So it's like, to me, you would want to bring it in like in the phone booth because of how big Mammoth is.
I mean, it's one of those things with Mammoth, you got to be on your A game with him. I'm just going to say that already. I'm going to say that right now. You have to be. There are certain fighters in the OGR. If you're not on your best, you're done.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think if you're not at your best with Mammoth or you're not at your best with Black Spartan, you are done. If you see their fights, they hurt people. And so I think it was a case where it was like, I think they understood and they respected each other's power. Mm-hmm. They respected their animal inside of them. And I think that for them, it was like, we have to be strategic because at any moment I can get caught and lights out can happen.
I'm going to say right now, there are certain fighters in the OG yard. If you are not 100% at your top game, you are doomed. Jive Joker, definitely. When Wolverine is training and he is ready to go, you can't. Olympian, Venom, and I'll explain it. Venom is my homie. Heart of Stone. I'll even say, just to my own heart, if I'm having a bad day, you'll get me. If I'm not, it's game over. The list is long in that OG group. In the West Coast, same thing. If you're not at the top of your game when you're going against the West Coast, you're trashed. You're done. Even with Scrapyard too, I'll say it too. So I've seen a lot.
I think that goes for any branch. I think every branch they have killers, and so you can't play around. You can't go underprepared because at any moment, any day.
Or here's one for you. They'll look at you, and this has happened with me and a couple of fighters. Oh, I'm fighting this guy. Oh, he's nothing. Yeah. Then you get in there and you're like, what did I walk myself into? No way. Fair Play's the same way. Fair Play, nicest guy in the world. Moment you go in there, you better be praying you're at the top of your game fighting Fair Play.
Great point. Absolutely. And even even if I go through quickly, like Duva versus Unknown, I felt like Duva won. I know that Unknown is, protesting the win. Just from my observation, Duva was raining down elbows. It was about to get ugly, and so I think they stopped it right before. So I think at the ref's discretion, he's looking at this. He goes, I think they're not only looking at the damage that the fighter's taking, but they're also anticipating the damage that the fighter will take in the next 5 seconds or 10 seconds if this fighter does not move. And I think the ref did it, in my opinion, did a good job jumping in and calling it, because Duva was raining down elbows. It was going to get a lot worse. Unknown was turning, to his point. I think to his credit, he was turning, but he was not going to be able to get out of it. Yeah. And so,
go on.
And so I just don't know. And I know from the defense, I know they said, well, I was still conscious. I just think that's not a good defense.
I'm going to say right now, and somebody just brought up in the comment section, there is a very distinct thing, OG yard, scrap yard, any branch. Fighter safety is number one. I do not care if you can still defend yourself. If that ref thinks you can't, if your corner thinks you can't, what we're going to call it. Scarface has made it clear to everybody. Fighter safety is number one in all the branches. Because here's what happens. All it takes is one person to get seriously injured, and the ref didn't stop it when they could have stopped it in time, and it shuts the whole thing down. So, yeah, I agree with you on that one. My thing is, do a rematch. Unknown, let's go out there.
Yep. I mean, Unknown has been to the West Coast before, so he's more than welcome to come out. And I think he's also a fan favorite. I think I'm a fan of his work, and so I would love to go out to see, hey, in different conditions, will the fight be the same? Maybe not, maybe so. But, I mean, that was a good fight until then. I mean, it was a good fight. Unknown had put him to the ground, taken him to the ground, had landed some huge shots, but Duva was able to get back up. And then once he tripped him and got him full mount, I knew that the end was coming, because Duva does not play.
The dude doesn't play, and that's the thing. What other fights do you want to go through? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so I would say, if we were to quickly go through some, I would say the J-Dub versus Ryu Pixie was a good match. I thought J-Dub was more skilled than Ryu Pixie. I thought J-Dub definitely showed more experience, but Ryu Pixie showed a lot of heart.
Exactly. And a lot of you guys don't know, that's our nurse. That's the OG Yards nurse. So for her she has to take care of fighters, me, and everything else, and then take care of both sides. Then she has to get ready to fight. I do know they're going to rematch. I can tell you right now, it is confirmed. She's going out with me and Wicked in March. When we do our little invasion, they are going to be fighting March 19th. There will be a rematch. From what I've understood, from what I've heard, they want to do the rematch. I'm like, okay. I was like,
well, I mean, hopefully, Ryu Pixie is able to pick up a little bit more skill, so that, because to me it was clear, like you can see the skill gap, the skill differential between the two. But like I said, Ryu Pixie just has a lot of heart, and so she was not going to go down. She was getting hit with some shots, but she was also delivering as well. And so I gave her props. I give both the women props for showing up, especially in this really big event. Right, West Coast is East, and it was great to have a female fighter from both coasts representing the squads. And so there's another fight that I saw you happy about, was Prodigy versus Instinct. And so, Prodigy, so very similar to this. Prodigy, very similar to the last fight we just talked about with J-Dub and Ryu Pixie. Prodigy has a lot more skill than Instinct. Instinct is just tough, right? Instinct is tough and has a lot of heart. And Prodigy was delivering blows. Like when he was landing on Instinct, you can hear the crowd go, oh, like in pain and agony to see Prodigy landing so cleanly. Because it wasn't just like he was landing one punch, he was landing multiple punches and combinations. And so it was like body, head. And so you're seeing these things land flush, and everyone's like, oh man, when is the ref going to stop this? But yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed that fight. And no offense to Instinct, it's what happened again behind the scenes before we did a so-called flag football game. And we couldn't really do it because people didn't show up. The attitude that I got and this, oh, I'm from Chicago, I'm bigger, and I'm thinking, who are you fighting? Okay. Walked right over to Prodigy and said, this is one time where I went like this. Forget the East Coast. Take him out. Like I literally just, and I went, you're not representing the West Coast this time. You're representing me. And he started cracking up laughing and he goes, what's wrong? I said, I'll tell you after the fight. And I told him after the fight what happened because he wasn't listening. Like he was going to do sparring the day before you fought. And I said, anybody will tell you you never spar the day before you fight. You move around a little bit, but you don't do what they were doing. And I said, and he wasn't even listening. He kind of talked down to me a little bit. I went to Prodigy. After I was like, thank you. I think I had a soda in my hand celebrating because I was like, and afterwards, I'm always like, we all spar before we fight. I don't. I was taught that by Coach D. I was taught that by 4 pro fighters and the dude down in Parkersburg. You never train your day before you fight. You just relax. But Prodigy, killer. I enjoyed it so thoroughly. It was fun to watch over and over.
No, Prodigy is a monster. I think B said that. He's a monster or savage. He is. Prodigy.
How much is
clean.
He weigh?
I don't know, but he's going to get problems no matter what weight class he's in.
You know who I would love to see him fight, but he signed a pro contract? Him versus Bad News.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been a good fight.
That would be a fight.
Yeah, I think Bad News might be a little bit bigger, but okay, there he goes. 170.
Hey.
Yeah. That would have been a great fight.
There.
Yep. Moving around from sparring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, good job, Prodigy, my man. Like, the skill level, you definitely demonstrated that. And so, last one before we get to the main one was, I like Prince KT went out and showed out, man. I think for folks, like everyone knows that Prince KT talks, right? He talks his mess. He goes, he has his own podcast. He talks up a storm, how he's going to beat up all these fighters. And so when he got out there, he not only did he talk, but he also backed it up, right? He said, right? I mean, he didn't get the knockout he said he was going to do, right? Because he said, I'm going to knock him out. But he did say, his assessment was right. He said, I have more experience in the fighter that I'm going to fight. And so that should show. And it did. It showed in the fight that he just has more experience in the ring. He's sharper with his jab. There was times where his opponent, that boss, was whenever he got hit, because Prince KT's jab was phenomenal in that fight. So when he was landing that jab, that boss was getting upset. You can see that he was getting mad. And so he was starting to bunch up. He was also starting to put his feet together. He was trying to jump towards KT, and he was trying to brawl with KT. And I just think that wasn't a really good game plan against KT because he's just longer. Yes, he brought the fight to him, but I just don't think that was going to be his way of winning the fight. And KT just kind of showed that, hey, my technical abilities are a little bit more seasoned than yours, and I have more experience.
I've told a couple young fighters in the OG group, and I did coach a couple kids. And I've said to him, I said, you need to watch KT fight. And they said, why? I said, you need to watch this last Streetbeefs event. KT, his jab out of everybody, and I've compared this to the top 10 of Streetbeefs. If I had to make a list of the OG guys, his jab is probably number one. He is so. I mean, everyone has stuff to work on, but his jab, when he fires that, you can tell you're going to get rocked, and that's what I liked about him. His whole performance was just, he put on a clinic for everybody. That's what I'm going to say. KT was. He put on a clinic for everyone. Him, Bricks, and a few others put the clinic on this, and this is how you do it.
Yeah, no, he did a really good job with the jab. I think had he kept his opponent more at bay, he would have been able to even do a lot better. But, give credit to Dad Boss. Dad Boss was not going to back down. I think he knew that, KT was a little more seasoned, but I'm just going to bring the fight to him. So I thought that was a good fight. And so let's get to the biggest, I think the most significant fight there was at the event, because it wasn't the biggest, but it was the most significant, because at that moment, the West Coast was winning, right? When you tally up all the fights, the West Coast was winning. So we're winning by one fight. And so Venom Black had to pull this out, had to pull out this win in order to get a draw. If not, the West Coast would have took this invasion. It would have been stamped by the victories. And Venom came through.
Yeah. And I will say this right now. That fight has been, I kind of shared that fight with a few other fighters when they said it. I will say right now, Venom needs, and I'm going to say this on your broadcast, Venom needs to turn pro. Venom needs to turn pro, get it over with. I will say this, 619 showed the greatest heart, undisputed heart in that fight. And it was hard for me to judge that fight. If I was sitting there judging it, I would have went 1-1, Venom wins the third. It was that to me, because I want to see skill level. I want to see, the way I look at fights is different than how you look at fights. How it was that close. It was I got tired of hearing everybody, oh, he's going to die. Not going. No. Venom is the top dog with Olympian, and then you can put anybody else out of that. But Venom is the man. If you have Corey probably now number 3, number 2, Olympian's up there too, and Beach and all that. But yeah, I thought it was like.
I agree. Look, I agree. I agree. Look, because we all know, like I said, I thought J-Dub won. And so if you remove that draw, that definitely gives the West Coast the win. Trying to think, what was the other draw that they gave out? I can't remember. There was, the Diesel versus Zaytoven fight. I think a lot of us can say Diesel won that fight. So again, you can say West Coast won. But since they didn't classify those as wins, right, so we can't technically, I think the West Coast can't technically say they won because those are draws. However, I think theoretically, if you really look at the fights, I think the West Coast did show up, they showed out, and they proved their point. All right, but Venom Black, when the chips are down, I think showed up big time. And I think there was a number of things that got in the way. 619, I think he also was flat going into the fight. I think his strategy, I think he took the wrong approach. Right? He definitely, he was trying to roughhouse Venom, but Venom is strong. Like you can see, like he was spinning 619 around. And then Venom Black also had a good strategy. I'm going to throw uppercuts. When we're in here, I'm going to create space with my elbow and then fire up. And he kept doing that over and over. And then tie him up, space, uppercut.
And I think, and here's the thing with Venom, his last fight was against King, who is now turning pro. Hey, Murder Bear, that will happen. I will, if I'm getting beat to go out to the West Coast with me March 19th. We will make, let's get that to happen. That will, if Mook wants it, I'm going to spearhead that one. We'll get with Sunshine. I think the way you beat Venom, and Venom is just, he's unstoppable. And I would say you would have to really, he's like the Floyd Mayweather of the group. He shows up, and I like the strategy with the uppercuts, like you said. But I think if you put a ton more pressure on him, it might fold. I'm not saying I will never fight Venom because he's my homie and I love him to death. But Venom is just so skilled, it's insane. That's why, Venom needs to go to the West Coast and be like, here we go. 619 was it? I agree with Diesel. It was a draw.
I didn't think it was a draw.
I would say that it's how you interpret the third round. How you interpret the last round.
No, remember, they had 5 rounds. They had 5 rounds. It originally started 3 rounds and went 5 rounds. But here's the thing. I mean, 619 is my man. So is Venom Black. I thought 619 had a close round. That was it. I don't think he won any of the rounds. I think 619 had a close round. I think, I just didn't think he performed well either. And so I'm also thinking about that. I think 619 didn't perform well. Venom Black, he was hitting. You can tell his hits were harder. It seemed like he had more energy and stamina throughout the entire fight. And so at the end of the fight, you can tell just by body language alone that Venom Black just had that.
And that's the thing. I think with Venom, the whole setup, how he went in there, he elevated. Okay, that literally proved he was Floyd Mayweather to a T, number one. And that was like, okay, because if you look at the dynamic going into this, the OG Yard needed, I hate to say a salvation, they got it with him. And again, it elevated everything. But my thing with that whole fight, because like I said, Venom, I want to do a redo of that. I want a rematch with those two. Or, have Venom go to the West Coast.
Yes.
And do a top, like, again, whoever we get for the West Coast. That's why I'm like, kind of like, Venom needs to turn pro. Venom should be a pro fighter. He is that good. And I mean, even Coach Danny Shaw used to say it to me, Venom is at the top of his game. When you see who he's beaten, it's the top of his game. And that's why I have mad respect for him. I love him to death. Every time I see him, he's always giving me advice. And it's like, and I'm like, dude, I look up to you. And he's like, no, I look up to you. I'm like, flip it.
Yeah, Menace Mike is in the chat. What's up, Menace Mike?
Menace Mike.
Every time Menace Mike shows up, him and Free Smoke go at it. So when the East Coast makes it to the West Coast, make sure Menace Mike is on that plane, because we got to see this fight.
All right. So for everybody who wants to know, we kind of been hinting at this. Demon's turning 39 in March. I want to do something big for my birthday, and since I'm going to be turning pro in April, what we're going to do is I am spearheading, and I'm calling it the Demon Invasion, just because I really West Coast, East Coast. I know what I want to do with Streetbeefs. I have a dream scenario. I'll say that in a minute. But if anybody wants to go with me to Vegas, I'm going to say this now. We are leaving March 16th. We are going all the way to the 24th. Here's why. We're fighting on the 19th. Beach's birthday is the 20th. Demon's birthday is the 22nd. I am partying with everybody who's out there. We're going to have one heck of a ride. I don't know who I'm going to get to whoever West Coast puts me in, but I know it's going to be very emotional for me because I'll be with all my friends. I will also be a 2 champion, actually. That all being said, what I want to see happen is Scrapyard, OG, West Coast, and Dirty South compete in the Super Bowl, the WrestleMania of Streetbeefs, and literally have we get 15 fights or whatever, and we match everybody up. Who is the top branch? Who is number one? Is it OG, West Coast, Scrapyard, or the Dirty South? I want to see that. I would love to see. Yeah, we're taking. I'll get my passport. I don't care.
Y'all crazy. Y'all crazy if y'all really do that.
You're going with us, bro. We're gonna have the biggest. I'm telling you right now. I'm turning 39. I want something big for my birthday, but I really do see we're gonna. I do know Beach is going. I do know the nurse is going. Wicked's going with me. Anybody on the East Coast that wants to go, we're actually going to meet in one place, and then I found it cheaper to fly out of Columbus, Ohio, than it is to fly out of Dulles. So we're actually going to meet me in Parkersburg, and then we're going to go from Parkersburg out. And I've already been told I'm supposed to see everything.
Well, it's going to be awesome when y'all finally make it out. Y'all make it out to the West Coast, and I'm hearing that we are preparing. I mean, the West Coast is preparing a place for the East Coast to come, a bigger venue. So that's what I'm hearing. I don't know. Like I said, I can't confirm.
I can't confirm it. Like royalty, I pretty much appreciate it.
And so I'm just saying, I think they're going to be preparing for the East Coast Invasion if that does actually come to fruition. And so we hope because we see a lot of banter between some of these fighters, and we know that there will be some really good rematches. But we also, like you said, right? We just want to see who are the best, right? We have all these branches. Who is the best? Yeah.
Okay, Mama Demon. She became a Street Beefs person now. She became. What she wants to see is all 4 branches battle it out. We got. Better hook you up. You better be hooking me up too, bro. Like everyone's got to understand, I'm coming out as a guest, so y'all are in charge. But I really would like to see all 4 branches, and literally, let's do it. Messy Mike, the only guy. Inductive and
yeah, they're going at it in the comment section. Yeah, Menace Mike and Free Smoke are going at it. I mean, as usual. I mean, it happens every single time. But this fight has to happen.
Free Smoke, I can't guarantee you, but someone I remember the West Coast, I will do everything in my power that I have, whatever power I have left, to make sure you get Menace Mike. Menace Mike, since you're watching, you need to clear your schedule for a week. You're taking a week's vacation. Y'all are going to come out to me. We're all going to go out to the West Coast. I will lead. I'm going to lead y'all, but I ain't going to be like, I ain't invading. I'm going to be hanging with the West Coast guys along with the East. But we will make this happen. I will do everything I can. I will let Sunshine know this is the plan. This is when we're leaving. Talk it up with all you guys, Bushido, Alex, everybody. I will make sure whoever wants to go, I'm going to probably announce it tomorrow or Tuesday that we're planning this. I do also want to get plenty of sparring with everybody out there. So when I go out there for a week, I want to see everything.
Yeah, I mean, these two are – that's Menace Mike. So Menace Mike.
Hey, Menace Mike. Come on, bro. You're going now. You're going west. We're making it happen, man.
So yeah, this is to close up, right? And so because this can be all day. This is I can already tell that this thing's going to be all day. And so I think being able to see all these fights, these two coasts come together for a major event was huge. It was huge for Street Beefs, huge for each and every fighter, but also huge for the branches, because what it showed was, right, is that the talent that Street Beefs has is enormous, right, and it's across the nation.
It's insane, and we now have fighters signing up, turning pro. We have fighters getting amateur fights. We now have promotions. A lot of people may not know this. A lot of people may not know this. We now have we have promotions looking at Street Beefs, looking at because of this event and saying these guys are legit. These guys, we need to, who are their diamonds in the rough? Who can we get? And with what you guys are doing on the West Coast with the OG Yard, I will again say it. The West Coast guys, because of everything I've dealt with personally, made me feel important. Like I felt like, wow, I was playing a part. And when Sunshine told me everything, what they were all saying to me, and I will say right now, she screenshotted one or two of the comments to me. And I was sitting in this room crying. And I'm on the phone with my mom. She goes, "What's wrong?" And I read to her the comments. West Coast guys, every time, I look at all the pictures. You guys set a standard for anybody who comes out there from the other branches. Like you've elevated yourselves. That's why we need to do the World Series, all four branches. And we do it, and I'm going to say right now, in Iowa. Let's do it in Sunshine's backyard. Thanks, 916. Really do that and decide and give championship out. Like, hey, you're the champion of the entire yard.
This is to your point, right? Is that I think what it does, it lends Street Beefs the opportunity to bring all the branches together, right? And not only to compete, right, to see who are the best in every division, but also to create a much deeper bond with each other. And I think when everyone left the event, the West Coast was tighter than they were when they got there, and some of the East Coast fighters are tighter than they were when they got there.
Oh yeah, and like I said, it sent shockwaves throughout the entire thing. It sent shockwaves to when they did the pop event in New Jersey. They sent shockwaves throughout the entire Street Beefs universe. Like you said, being adopted into the West Coast branch, I watch everything that you guys do. All the stuff West Coast does. I read everything. I sometimes don't comment because I'm usually running on a battlefield or I'm training 24/7. Except I got to take 2 days off for my arm to heal. But 2 days is nothing for me. But you guys, the West Coast, this event solidified the family. It brought the family back because we kind of been, the OG Yard kind of been, lost a little bit. And when this occurred, it kind of brought some of them together. And with what you guys adopting me, Wicked, we still talk about it. We still talk about, and it's been 2-3 weeks, and we're getting ready for the OG event in 2 weeks. We're still talking about the West Coast because you guys made a huge impact. And I'm going to say right now, it's going to resonate for a very long time. Bad News turns pro. Okay, takes him out. Who's the next one? It elevates because now everyone's like, when are they coming back? Well, now the East Coast is going to get ready to come over in March. That's the kind of stuff that, it brings everybody together.
I agree. I couldn't have said it better. So I think, like you said, although you've seen the banter and the commentary,
Oh,
It ain't personal. Yeah. I mean, that's all competitive banter. But in the end, I think we all bleed, right? We all bleed the same blood. We're all family. We all, when it's time, we will fight. Folks will fight, get in the ring. But after that, it's all love, right? It's all respect. It's a brotherhood. It's a familyhood. It's a sisterhood. It's, and so I'm glad that I was, able to witness this. I was a witness of it, right? Being able to testify, right? In church, to say testify. If you have a testimony, testify. So I was able to testify that, yes, people definitely, in the end, there was deeper bonds that were built. And I think this will last a lifetime.
Here's one thing you can tell when certain fighters were going in, that the crowd got noisier. When certain, like Bad News, when Beach went in, or when Coyote, I love saying that, Wolverine, Venom, you could hear the crowd, Shinigami, Viking, all those guys, you could hear that crowd going crazy. And it was the same for the whole event. That crowd did not stop. I'll throw my fight in there because it ended because he banged his head in the back of the cage. My fight, the whole crowd, you couldn't tell it was West Coast, East Coast. It was Streetbeefs was screaming at both of us being a coup. It was that intense. And that's what made those fights so good. If you watch it on the live stream, okay, it was cool. Or if you already watch it after they release it, if you're not there in person, the ground was shaking every time a West Coast guy went in, every time an East Coast, and there was, when Coyote delivered a punch or when Lobster did something, it was the whole place was shaking. So you had to be there to be like, whoa. And I always tell everyone, there's a difference between the seeing it on camera and when you're in person, it's like you get goosebumps.
Yep. Absolutely agree. And so for those who weren't there, you missed it. However, there might be an opportunity to do another one. And so when that happens, make sure you're there. Make sure that you see it for yourself, because trust me, what I witnessed there, what everyone witnessed there cannot be replicated, cannot be duplicated. It's a one in a lifetime type of thing. And so make sure at the next event, show up, sign up, and get down. And so, as always, we always appreciate our guest, Demon Monsoon. Thanks for coming in, filling in for our boy. Yeah, Canadian, who was on here for a brief second, had to bounce because of his phone, but we appreciate you closing out the show with us. For the rest of y'all, thanks for tuning in to the show. Make sure you subscribe, share this video, get as many likes as possible. It helps the algorithm, and make sure that, we get some love, right? Just show us some love, y'all. All right, and as always, I always appreciate everyone in the comment section. Y'all make this so funny to watch because it's like we're talking to y'all, but also reading the comments at the same time. And we always appreciate all the love, y'all. And so until the next time, make sure you double down on your own commitments to your life. All right, y'all. Peace.
Peace.